Hello, everyone. This is me. I'm 52 years old, and today I'll be reading my story about Grace. My name is Susan. I'm 52, and I've been married to David for nearly 30 years. We raised 4 children together, all grown and out living their lives. Our house used to be full of noise and energy. Now it feels quiet and honestly a little empty. David has always been a good man, hardworking, dependable, and kind in his own way. But over the years, our relationship turned more into routine than romance. The spark we once had is gone. We rarely talk deeply anymore. Our days blend into one another, and the silence feels heavier than ever. One afternoon, I noticed a new face across the street. Her name was Grace. She was a vibrant woman in her early 30s, married to an older man named Edward, a retired school principal. They had been an item for over 10 years. Despite their age difference, there was a tenderness between them that made the neighbors talk but also admire. When she smiled and waved at me one day, I felt something stir inside me, something I hadn't felt in years. So I baked some banana bread and introduced myself. Her home felt alive, filled with color, plants, warmth. She welcomed me in, and soon we were talking like old friends. She asked about me, not just my kids or husband, but me. It felt like someone saw Susan again, not just the roles I'd grown used to playing. Over the following weeks, Grace and I became inseparable. Walks, tea, deep conversations. I hadn't laughed or felt that scene in ages. But beneath her cheerful energy, I sensed a sadness she was trying to hide. One evening, as the sun was setting, I asked her about it. She opened up. Grace admitted that she hadn't married Edward out of love, but for security. Growing up poor made her crave stability, and Edward could offer that. But now she regretted it. He wanted children, she didn't. Every time she got pregnant, she secretly ended the pregnancy. She shared that burden with me, her voice trembling, afraid of judgment. I didn't judge her. I couldn't. I saw how much pain she carried. Her confession forced me to face my own emptiness, my own quiet ache for something more. The next day, I brought her cookies, hoping to cheer her up. But when I arrived, I found her house in disarray and heard unmistakable sounds from the bedroom. So I left quickly, disturbed and confused. Back home, I tried to reconnect with David. I initiated intimacy for the first time in years. He pulled away, joking that I must be high. It crushed me. The following day, Grace called. She told me that Edward knew about my visit and was upset. She said it didn't mean anything, that it was just survival. I snapped, overwhelmed by everything, telling her how invisible I felt in my own marriage. She comforted me, and in that moment, something shifted. Later, Grace revealed that our husbands had planned a couple's weekend trip, something David hadn't mentioned to me yet. That news only added to the confusion I was feeling. At the resort, the men were mostly preoccupied with sports and each other, leaving Grace and me alone again. That night, Grace came to my room. One thing led to another, and in a moment of vulnerability and desire, we crossed a line. What happened between us was passionate and confusing, something I'd never expected but couldn't stop either. The next morning, reality hit. I couldn't ignore what happened or pretend it didn't matter. Neither of us spoke much for the rest of the trip. When we got home, I told Grace we needed to move on. Me toward rebuilding things with David, and her toward figuring out what she really wanted. A week later, she told Edward everything, the truth about her marriage, the abortions, the regret. Edward was heartbroken but calm. He asked for a divorce. Grace left and moved back to the city to start over. I didn't tell David about Grace, but I did tell him how lonely I had felt. I said I wanted to reconnect, to try. To my surprise, he agreed. We began seeing a counselor. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Grace's presence and then her absence made me confront everything I had been avoiding. About love, identity, and what it means to really live your life instead of just surviving it. Thank you.